Thank you very much, Professor Firoz Kgalema. One of the complicating factors of life, particularly where there's an organization, is protocol. Protocol is a very difficult comrade, I must tell you, because comrade protocol used to give Madiba lots of trouble. Madiba was a stickler for punctuality. So if a meeting is to start at 9, he will be ready, seated at 5 to 9 to proceed with the meeting. And of course, protocol people will come to him and say, no, Tata, please wait. The people are not yet seated and so on. And his response or retort was always to say to them, well, if I don't take my seat and I roll into the meeting venue later, they are going to assume that I'm the cause of the delay. And he would barge into the meeting and take his seat. And of course, he would be, as people arrive later, he would be noting their names on a small piece of paper on the side. And at the opportune moment, he will apologize profusely to them for having started the meeting before their arrival. And it always had a positive impact in terms of observing punctuality. Mine really is to thank all of you for availing yourself to participate in this inaugural Inclusive Growth Forum. We, as a foundation, have been given lots of homework. So we will go back and sift through all the suggestions. And we hope that by Tuesday, all the available papers that were delivered here can be posted on our website so that they become accessible to the general public. But over and above that, we intend to put together a comprehensive report that would become a public document of all the wonderful and positive suggestions that were made during the course of these 3 days. The Statistician General, Date Padile Wotla, by force of example, has taught us that those of us who had the privilege of occupying public office and were exposed to very clear constraints of what can be done, have the privilege now to make very concrete suggestions of how to undo the mess that we created when we were in office. Because you heard his wonderful presentation here. It's not a new discovery. He always knew what he said here when he was in office. But the mandate of his office had the effect of constraining him because it was limited to gathering data. Now he always shared the data with the nation as a whole and the colleagues in government. And of course, like everybody else, he ended up frustrated that this wealth of information was not being in other words, was not being utilized optimally. And so now that he's out of that office, he can do now the proper, give guidance on how this information should be utilized. So it's a lesson in how we should utilize experience that we gathered through exposure and responsibility of being in office, so that life should not end when you step out of office. So the protocol demands that I start off by acknowledging Premier Makura and Mrs. Makura, Honorable Deputy Minister Gungubele and Mrs. Gungubele, our veterans, Tate Mlangeni, Professor Ben Turok, Mary Turok, Professor Sangweni, and of course all the young people who joined us in this hall. It was important to have an intergenerational mix of South Africans to wrap their heads around the key questions. I think next time we will try and narrow the issues that we need to focus on, rather than to have a long list, because I realized that the time was our worst enemy, because many people who would have loved to share their perspectives and suggestions with us were unable to do so. But we encourage you to even drop us a line if you get a brainwave about what needs to be done, so that we can share the suggestions with our leaders who are in government. Premier Makura has indicated to you how frustrating it is for trying your best, your level best, and you still get feedback which is honest. Honest feedback is really meant to strengthen what you're doing. It's not meant to frustrate you, because we still need people who can ascend to public office and provide us with leadership. And so that feedback, I call it feedback rather than criticism. It's really just feedback that, Steve Tshwete, the late Steve Tshwete, Minister Steve Tshwete, used to say that what is the point of praising a fish for knowing how to swim? So if you are in office, the expectation is that that's your work, that's your duty, and you must perform it to the best of your ability, and without expecting to be praised for that. Now, our people in the communities that feel marginalized and excluded, right from the young ones, must find the space to voice their feelings that they are marginalized or they are excluded. It is very important. Otherwise, if they don't give us honest feedback, if they don't give those in public office honest feedback, then of course the leadership will become complacent, and complacency is a weakness. that shouldn't be countenanced. I'm elated and really heartened by the wonderful young people who were present during the course of these 3 days. Most of them very capable people and with sharp minds. And so, you know, the fourth industrial revolution is something that appears to be torture for the older generation because firstly, the manuals of these gadgets are written in very small print. So there's difficulty in reading and understanding how to, you know, work out these complicated gadgets. So when you have grandchildren and children, you give it to them, and they crack it within a few minutes and give it back to you and show you all the applications without reading the manual. So, so one of the great points that emerged from the discussions around this fourth industrial revolution is that actually we should start at ECD level by ensuring that these little toddlers have, you know, access to these gadgets because they are not constrained by training. They have no boundaries. And so they can be creative and innovative and even expand on what needs to be invented and so on. I've seen an advert on television where young people speak about what they want to do. And one of them says she wants to, in future, create a machine that would renew old houses. And another one says she wants to create a machine that would take all the refuse and dirt underground, and so on. So you can see that, you know, their minds are, you know, searching for solutions to what they can see around them and what they can experience. So rather than waiting for those who become experts, we should also include, this was a suggestion, young ones from ECD level. Now, Professor Kgalema Motlanthe spoke about corruption of money and corruption of values. And he said we are preoccupied with addressing the problem of corruption of money to the exclusion of dealing with the problem of values. Because values are important in society. If we are not a value-based society, then since we are gathering here on a Sunday morning, Bishop Pumlwana, then people will live by the 11th commandment. And of course, once the 11th commandment is adhered to, the rest of the other 10 really don't matter. And the 11th commandment says, thou shalt not be caught. And I want to leave you with a quote from a letter that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote from Alabama prison to a governor. It's a long letter, but I'll just refer to the very last sentence in it. And he says to this governor, when you are involved in a continuous fight against the degenerating feeling of nobodiness, you will understand why we are not prepared to wait. So, many of our people are involved in this continuous degenerating fight against the feeling of nobodiness. And that's why they are not prepared to wait. They need their issues to be addressed forthwith. And that's what we must understand as public personalities. We must understand that you can't say to those who are without that, please wait, we've established a special committee to look into this matter. And next year we come back and say, well, that committee has now developed a framework. And the next year we come back and say, now the committee is being augmented by 3 other members. Doesn't work. It can only generate frustration. And that's why we must try and understand and seek to give prompt responses. My last task before I step off this podium is really to convey our special thanks to Roger and Steve and James, but most importantly also to the captain of the staff who looked after us over the 3 days. And who were involved, in charge of the logistics. Philip West and Bianca Ailif, as well as Adim and Vanessa and Donovan, all of them, including Colin, who was in charge of all the electronic gadgets here, the speakers and the screens. We thank you most sincerely. And in our vernacular isiXhosa, we say to you, Nangomso, Ningadinwa. Thank you very much.